Hey friends, Peggy Hall back with you from thehealthyamerican.org. Well, after all these years of exposing the public serpents, you can see one right here with his Freemasonry bow tie. Yes, this is Andrew Doe. Really, his nickname is the Andrew Dodo, and I'm going to be explaining all of that in this video. But you know, these public serpents, as I call them, because they are serving evil instead of the people, I can tell you that I am finally celebrating. One of the most blatant liars and deceivers at the county level is this man here, the disgraced former county supervisor. Yes, that's how you say it. In fact, he was the chairman of the Orange County Board of Supervisors. This man, Andrew Doe, is finally going behind bars, just as I predicted. Yep, Dodo Bird will be in federal prison for stealing the public dough to the tune of about $10 million, probably more to be uncovered, and dishing it out to his two daughter does and countless Vietnamese criminal cronies. And you thought I only focused on Bob Kennedy and Elon Musk. Well, you probably do know my most recent work of exposing the hypocrisy and the double cross of Bobby the Bamboozler Kennedy. But I've been at the forefront of calling out all of the frauds, the fakes, and the phonies, especially at the county and state level for years. And it brings me great satisfaction to finally see that one of these public serpents is paying for their crimes by doing the time. So exactly what did Doe do? That's what I'm going to cover in this video. Since we're talking about money, I want to thank the sponsor of the video, which is also about money. It's about gold. Let's go on over here to noblegoldinvestments.com. Give me just a moment as I thank the sponsor and bring you their message, which is the US dollar has lost 85% of its value since the 1970s, when the dollar decoupled from gold, and the government seems bent on continuing the tradition. From now until after the next elections, the government can basically print as much money as it wants to. The last time they did that, inflation went up about 9%. And this means one thing: the security of your future and your family's future is all in your hands. Make sure that you freeze the value of the wealth that you are holding, meaning don't let it melt. Invest in gold, and I'm talking about physical gold with Noble Gold Investments. Now, gold is the one asset that has proven to withstand recession, inflation, and just about all economic threats. And Noble Gold Investments is here to help you if you want to invest in gold. And I want you to check this out, friends, because look at this bonus here, the promotion for the 4th of July. You get 2 Silver America, the beautiful coins, 5 ounces, and 1 Silver American Virtue coin. I think that is the coolest thing. So go to noblegoldinvestments.com right now. Well, after you see the video, I should say, it's noblegoldinvestments.com. I'll have a link for you in the description box below. You'll speak to someone in the United States. It's a family-owned company, 877-646-5347. Friends, we are talking about Andrew Doe and the Orange County corruption scandal. I showed you a picture of this man here, and I want to tell you exactly what Doe did. In fact, I've been sharing with you over the course of months. In fact, I've got these Substacks for you here, and I hope you'll go back and see some of these. So, according to the federal lawsuit filed against this one-time chairman of the Orange County, California Board of Supervisors, Andrew Doe, this public serpent stole funds intended to feed the elderly and the disabled during all of the cooties hogwash. He siphoned off millions for himself and his cronies, including the down payment on a $1 million house for one of his daughters. Millions more lined the pockets of his cronies, who then provided kickbacks to this man, Doe. Now, Doe used the money to pay his taxes, kind of a weird thing to do, especially if you're a criminal. And he also paid off some credit cards, apparently. His other daughter got her share of the stolen cash to the tune of about $100,000. Now, some shill companies were created to launder the money, and there are probably millions more of dollars to be uncovered. Now, truth be told, Andrew Doe's sentence of 5 years in federal prison is basically a slap on the wrist. The other criminal cronies have yet to be sentenced, and many are pleading not guilty. And strangely, the daughters are completely off the hook. One daughter who was posing as the head of a fake nonprofit, which I exposed as being nothing more than a bunch of empty buildings and no programs, no people, and no purpose. She was ordered by, yeah, here you go, available for lease, empty. You helped me expose this. You called that fake company, never got a phone call back, nothing on the website of any value. And this daughter is being ordered by the judge, the federal judge, to continue her law school studies. What in the actual heck? And to sit for the California bar exam? I'm not making this up. This is exactly what we need: more corrupt criminal attorneys in California. And I don't mean defending criminals. I mean, the attorneys are the criminals. Now, Dodo here that you can see on the right was also an attorney. He's been stripped of his license. And his wife, let me see if I may have a picture of her, Sherry Pham, was I know I've got a picture of her somewhere. Here she is. And this picture will tell you all you need to know about her position on the Cooties hogwash. Her name's Sherry Pham. She's likely connected to one of the other Phams that is being investigated for these crimes. She was the second highest presiding criminal judge in all of Orange County. No wonder my lawsuit against this dodo bird was tossed around like a hot potato. And why did this family even leave Vietnam to come to the United States? To steal from the American people and line their own pockets? I would have thunk it was for freedom. Nope. Now, a snippet from the federal prosecutors is specifically related to the sentencing of Doe. They wrote, public corruption is always serious, especially when committed by an elected representative, as I call them, public serpents. Nonetheless, the federal prosecutors said, this defendant's crime is shocking even by this heightened standard. His bribes were not only in service of favoritism, nepotism, and personal gain, they were in facilitation of a fraud that targeted some of the most vulnerable members of our community. Friends, he stole from the very Vietnamese community that he was elected to represent. It's despicable. And I knew this from day one. I could just see that this man was not trustworthy. He is a bad man, a very bad man indeed. And I've been exposing his evil ways since 2020, both in person at the county board meetings, in my YouTube videos here on this channel, and on my Substack, as I'm showing you here, and also in my own lawsuit, naming him as a defendant in my writ of mandate petition for the violations which he spearheaded in lying to the public about the fake, phony, and fraudulent so-called local health emergency, which he kept going for years against all lack of evidence, just so he could continue to receive the COVID relief funds, which he laundered through his Vietnamese organized crime cronies right into his own grubby hands. Friends, he is on the record. In person, he said, well, if we end the emergency, we won't keep getting the money. It's astonishing. And I've got an entire playlist here for you called Board of Supervisors. I should change that to the Board of Supervisors. And I've got so many of these. You can see in my earlier days, my appearance was a little different. And I have done a deep dive on all of his dirty deeds. So if you're interested in why I was suing the government and all of that, you can see more here. I've uncovered this in dozens of my Substacks and videos, and I called him out publicly in person and on this YouTube channel. And I contacted the FBI personally, and many of you did alongside me, alerting the FBI to this man's crimes. So I applaud the investigators from this website, which is the LAist, LAIST.com, an online media company, most specifically the journalist Nick Gerda. These journalists did the deep digging through county records to bring to light the utter greed, grift, and graft of these despicable criminals. As the federal lawsuit describes Doe's actions, they say it was a callous exploitation for personal gain. Ugh. I knew this guy was bad news from the get-go. And I jokingly, or maybe I am serious, refer to the day that I may visit him behind bars. But another part of me just wants to wash my hands of this grime and this crime family and breathe an unmasked sigh of relief that, at least for now, one very deserving public serpent is paying the price of having his freedom restricted, just as he and the other stupid visors attempted to restrict ours. That is worthy of applause. Now, there's more to the story. A portion of the stolen funds and assets were seized by the federal government with the intention of returning them to the county. And that's what this headline is all about. Millions are returned to taxpayers after the judge finalizes forfeit of assets tied to the Orange County corruption scandal. So after all these years of exposing the public serpents, I am finally celebrating. So let's see, there were millions of dollars from a bank account from this fake, phony, and fraudulent Viet America Society that his daughter was apparently running. Yeah, a 22-year-old that never had a job, that was a law student. Sure. She started a nonprofit and got $10 million. Makes total sense. There were other hundreds and thousands of dollars from a real estate company that Dodo Bird was using to launder money and bribes and give money to his daughters. There was a commercial property here. I don't know if this is it. That was purchased for $1 million. This house here that you can see on the right was $1 million house that the younger daughter, again, supposedly the head of this agency, bought in 2023 using the laundered money. Friends, this is despicable. What really bothers me about all of this was that hundreds, if not thousands of us, and I know I count many of you in my audience, that stood by me. We were shoulder to shoulder at these public meetings, at the county meetings, and we were there in the early days of this cooties hogwash, and we were vigorously questioning the representatives about exactly where this money was going, the so-called COVID relief money. And our questions were dismissed with a great degree of condescension, as you can see emanating from this man. They were sitting on their thrones. They were sitting behind bulletproof glass, if you can believe it. And they were so aggravated and irritated by our relentless opposition to their policies that they finally said, we're not going to discuss this any further. We're going to wait for the governor to tell us when the emergency is over. Well, excuse me, supervisors, stupid visors, your incompetence and ignorance is astounding. The county and state laws require this board to hold public meetings at least every other week to evaluate the evidence for these fake, phony, and fraudulent policies that they were inflicting upon us, and to determine whether or not this local health emergency should continue. This had nothing whatsoever to do with the governor. That's why we have a board. No one man has the authority to rule in this way. That was the very crux of my lawsuit against the county. And as I say, the county clowns, the attorneys of the county literally told the judges, get this, that the board was holding the public meetings in private. You heard me right. That was their defense. Your Honor, we are holding public meetings, but we're holding them in private. Well, that's a violation of another law in California called the Brown Act. So they were just digging their graves even deeper. But because this man's wife here was the top dog, the number 2 presiding judge in Orange County, my case got tossed around like a hot potato. Yes, sirree, folks, that there them's your public serpents telling the judge that the public meetings are being held in private. How do you like them apples? So not only did the county attorneys make these bald-faced lies with a straight face, the judges said, oh, this is so complicated. I can't figure it out. I'll have to take it under further review. But I can't rule on this until I study it further. Yeah, sure. I see. Yeah, makes perfect sense. So when the circus rolled up the tent and left town, at least in my case, when the judge ruled that my case was moot because the governor finally ended the fake, phony, fraudulent emergency, I doubled down on exposing this dodo bird for what he was doing in terms of his corruption and all of his criminal activities. My gut instinct. And you know what? I think these other stupid advisors that are pointing the finger at this guy, I think they also are complicit. And they're trying to say, look over there, look at him, don't look at us. So I think the corruption goes even deeper. What say you? I wouldn't be surprised if Don Wagner, the other guy, Chafee, and all the other stupid advisors have some COVID dollar stuck to their sticky fingers as well. What do you think? As for me, I never want to step foot inside a courtroom again. The sheer lunacy of these judges, their politics. And, they're all county employees. Yeah, they're paid by the very county that I was suing. So you can see how far that was going to go. It really turned my stomach. So I find that I personally can be much more effective creating these videos, educating people, being an activist, rather than bankrolling legal action to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars with money that in retrospect could have been much better spent, perhaps like my friend Tony Roman from Basilicos, buying billboard advertisements, for example. Leave the mask, take the cannoli. Friends, I will keep defending the truth. I will keep exposing these public serpents, and I will keep championing freedom. And I appreciate all of you being on board with me as I march this all the way to heaven.